The Outerbank airtime hill and double up continue to progress as we are now closing in on the final phases of ArieForce One's construction. Let's check in on this week's updates. What's up guys, Dr. Costa here on behalf of the Georgia Coast Connection, and welcome back to another ArieForce One construction update. Before we get started, I just want everyone to know that all photos and footage included in any of these construction updates are free to use with credit. I'd also like to thank my Georgia Coast Connection partner Christopher as we gather this content together. I'll link his pages down below. Another week had gone by since I had been out to Fun Spot Atlanta, so it was once again time to make it out to Fayetteville to check out this week's progress on ArieForce One's construction. Last week, we saw the Outerbank airtime hill pass over the pre-list section as it continued to grow, and we saw the double up expand over the ticket booth. While all of that was going on, we also saw another few pieces of track get added to the chili dip and exited the 0G roll behind the arcade. RMC has been moving very quickly as of late, and with Hershey Park expected to announce another RMC project in the not too distant future, it only makes sense that they are trying to wrap up this project as efficiently as they can so they can focus their resources elsewhere. We've been covering a lot of other Fun Spot Atlanta updates lately, but those seem to have slowed down for now. The parking lot continues to kind of chill out while we wait to see what will happen next there. If you missed the last couple of updates, I think we are in store for a huge paving and resurfacing project this off-season to pave the existing parking lot and entrance into the park. Now, let's get into the holy grail of these update videos, the latest progress on ArieForce One's construction. I've been making these updates for over 6 months now, and when I find big progress on the ride like this, it never fails to bring a smile to my face. So I hope this video will do just the same for you. Let's start out by checking in on the progress behind the arcade, where the second turnaround on the ride will take place. Last week, we saw some track get added to what will soon be the chili dip, and we noticed that new supports had been moved nearby to continue working on the pass over the arcade. However, since RMC has been putting in such an effort elsewhere up in front of the arcade, it wasn't too much of a surprise to not notice anything new here this week. It seems like RMC will finish ArieForce One's construction with the barrel roll and chili dip at this point, starting up at the front of the park and moving their way back down towards the arcade. The supports we noticed recently are still lying nearby, and the few pieces of track I noticed are still back in the woods. It should be interesting to see when we see the next progress here, considering what I found up in front of the arcade. So I headed up there next to continue filming this update. When I got there, I started out by checking out the area up against the arcade. I realized something this visit that somehow had gone completely over my head during other visits to the park and throughout any and all content creation on the ride. I always found myself wondering why at this side of the construction we hadn't seen any more supports go vertical the way we did with the beginning of the quad down. And well, duh. This is going to be at least part of the bottom of the big drop before it rips back up into the barrel roll. So there won't be nearly as many supports going vertical the way we saw with the quad down. The supports we are seeing here are very similar to the ones we've seen coming out of the Outerbank airtime hill down at ground level. While we likely won't see that many supports, we had still been waiting to see what the truss structure would look like that will hold the barrel roll up as it passes over the arcade. And folks, I'm pretty sure this is it. I found this leaning up against the quad down, so maybe we aren't as far away from seeing this go vertical as I previously thought. Seeing those shots, you probably already noticed what I'm going to get into here next. And that's because there has been some serious progress in the double up. So let's go ahead and get into this. Looking over from the other side of the walkway, you can see that the ticket booth is now completely enclosed in a maze of white supports that now tower over the midways of the park. I'm not sure if this is the max height of the double up yet or not, as it heads down into the big drop, but we are getting very close. To put it into some perspective, this drop on its own will rival the height of the first drop on Twisted Cyclone just up the road. To think that this drop is coming this late in the ride is just bonkers. And that it's the predecessor to the barrel roll makes it just that much more mental. The pacing of this ride is going to be off the charts. I continue to walk around this part of the ride for a while as I admire just how much steel it uses and how tall it actually is in person. While walking around, I also notice there's considerably more steel that still needs to be attached. Whether these supports will take this element even higher, or if they will be part of the drop remains to be seen. But one thing is for sure, These have got to be getting installed here next, and I will be sure to show you what they look like next week. The double up and big drop are proving to be one heck of a duo, but one of the next updates may even top it. Before we get to that update, there are several other things that I found that I wanted to be sure to share with you all. While I was heading up towards the entrance of the park, I noticed dirt that was freshly dug up. This obviously caught my eye, but I wasn't exactly sure what it was at first. It wasn't until I found remnants of pipe that were laying around and new infrastructure in place that I realized what was going on. This was obviously new drainage being installed alongside the ride, following all of the groundbreaking that had been done over the last 8 to 9 months. There will likely be more concrete and pavement that gets poured here at some point, so it makes sense that this is going on now. This is probably pretty boring and seemingly insignificant to some of you, but I cover all this stuff with the ride and I'm not going to stop now. Something a little bit more interesting that I did find is I also found a ton of new rebar that is lying around the future side of the station building. This prompts me to wonder when we will be seeing this begin to be built. I'd imagine that most of it will go up after the ride is complete, but if a foundation or footers need to be poured, this could be the beginnings of that construction that we're seeing for the very first time. I'm not really sure what else this could be other than something for the station, but if you have an idea, be sure to let us all know in the comments below. I can't wait to see what the station and queue are going to look like. Will Fun Spot add some theming, or go the more minimalistic route? Time will tell, but I can't wait to see. Okay, now on to the moment that I know many of you have been waiting for. This is the latest progress on the Outerbank airtime hill. Not only have they added a ton of new supports, but they continue to lay down track as they go along. Remember what I said earlier about working down towards the arcade? I believe this is the beginning of just that. This element is already extremely impressive, but not just because of its size. Because the angle of the turn itself is going to be just ridiculous. I mean, just take a look at this profiling. The snap that this is going to provide is going to be unreal. Not to mention that this will occur immediately after exiting the longest CRG stall in North America, giving you little time to catch your breath. After that outward pop of airtime, you're going to be flung back down into your seat, where this element will eventually return you back to ground level over here at the beginning of the double up. We are not quite sure what that will look like yet, but it will be coming in the near future, and you know I'm going to share it with you when the time comes. Based on all of the supports and track in the near vicinity, and the pace that RMC has been working with here, I'd say that day is coming very soon. ArieForce One's liftoff may be delayed until spring of 2023, but we will still have a lot of construction and testing to look forward to before that day comes. If you're a loyal viewer of mine, thank you so much for the support you have been giving both these updates as well as my other content here on the channel. I've got some pretty big channel news coming up in the next few weeks, both regarding ArieForce One construction updates and otherwise. So I'd encourage you to stay tuned for a channel update video coming soon to see how you can get involved in some of my videos. I'm looking for some help, and I think you guys will be able to provide it. Thank you all for watching. That was the 28th of many ArieForce One construction updates to come. If you don't want to miss out on more construction updates like this, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, as many more of these will be coming out leading up to the opening of the ride. If you haven't already, then also be sure to follow Georgia Coast Connection over on Instagram, your home for all things ArieForce One. If you're feeling inclined, then you can follow me as well at Dr_Coaster. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.